Schools have made being a student difficult, but it's not completely the teacher's fault, and it's not any easier with disabilities. Having a disability makes it harder for students and teachers.
What I've noticed teaching SPED for so long is that some teachers don't really understand that students learn differently. I'm not gonna say they actively go out with a bias, but depending, I'm gonna say age range. Usually as older teachers, veterans tend to look at it differently because when we grew up, SPED was presented in a different way. The newer teachers are more open and more flexible in dealing with students who learn differently.
Another thing that makes it harder is being kept out of honors program, even though some students are smart enough, but they are not taught in the proper manner, so they do not have the grades. But even if they are in honors classes, they still may struggle without proper help.
Students who have a GPA of a 4.2 or higher are the ones who get invited by Ms. Brayton and I to apply for NHS. Once they get their invitation to apply, then we will give them instructions with that letter that basically they have to go into our NHS Canvas account that they have also been invited to. And they will have to submit an essay. This year we had asked them to write about qualities that they possess that would show that they are a quality candidate for NHS. They also had to write about the 4 pillars and kind of how they show those 4 pillars in their life, which was leadership, character, service, and academic excellence. And they had to talk about each of those things in their essay as well. And then they also have to get 3 teacher recommendations filled out. So they have to go back to whatever teachers they want to that they asked to fill out a Google form, just saying whether or not they recommend them to be a candidate for NHS.
One problem is that schools are not given resources and proper training to help students when they need it. Therefore, students are not given abilities to pass that class.
I was alternatively certified, so I was taught a little bit differently than most teachers who go to school to become teachers. They're taught with a textbook. It's called Exceptional Students. But textbook and reality are 2 different things. So I really think it's important that teachers continue to go to professional development. And so districts like ours that require you to have special ed training and additional get that added support. I really think teachers deserve more because they have to deal with more. And so I think the pay really doesn't always compensate the multiple roles that we have to hold.
Teachers do get like stipends and things for like the extra duties like NHS. I do get a stipend for NHS, but the amount of time and planning and things that even go into something like NHS, I don't think the stipends always match the amount of time, and in general I just think the pay for teachers, our salaries and things obviously could go way up just for the amount of time that is put in. Teachers spend a lot of their own personal time, and not even just teachers, all staff in education put in countless hours outside of work. They work at home and all kinds of things. So in order to be able to get the amount of work done, they're definitely not paid the adequate amount. I mean, they spend so much overtime that is just, they never see any money for. It's just out of the kindness of their heart and that they care so much about kids. So, no, I don't think it's a fair pay, but we still do it because we love working with kids.
Teachers also have some bias against SPED students due to the lack of resources, which makes it harder to provide for them and prevents neurotypical students from getting a proper education as well.
Bias in general is kind of hard to quantify because, again, it depends on life experiences. As a trainer, I always tell people you got to leave your baggage at the door. And some teachers have baggage and they can hide it and some can't. So I couldn't tell you, yes, there are, and no, there aren't, but in reality, yes, there are.
Students are also not engaged enough in their classes, making it a more difficult task and pushes students to scrolling on phones, sleeping, and other non-productive activities.
Some classes it's hard to engage them, but I grew up in a learning environment where we had to. Everything was based on performances. We didn't have tests and worksheets. You couldn't do worksheets, so you had to get creative. And again, it's going to depend. The younger teachers are going to have an easier time with that with technology and different kinds of learning styles. versus those of us like myself who've been in the field for a while where we gotta like, okay, what do I do different?
State testing is the main reason special education students don't get the help they need. According to the American School of Education, state testing decides who gets more funding and who gets left out. This system is unfair to all students and deprives them of resources.
You could do well on a test, great. You don't do well on a test, that doesn't decide who you are as a person. I would really rather us focus on building talent than testing on a test. I don't believe we teach a lot of things for the outside world because we are so focused on that school aspect. I loved it that we had our art teacher, Miss Berry, who taught kids how to sew on buttons. She taught them how to do handshakes, just those real life skills that they're gonna need to get jobs and take care of themselves.